Whose room are you in right now?
Yeah, exactly.
We're in Anthony's room. Hello and welcome to the Modern Hotelier presented by Stay Flexi, your all-in-one modern operating system for independent hotels. Each episode will get to know an industry expert and we'll discuss the latest trends in hospitality to help you, the modern hotelier. Welcome to the Modern Hotelier presented by Stay Flexi. I'm your host, David Malilly.
And I'm Steve.Carran.
Steve, we're here in Las Vegas. Who do we have on the program today?
Today we have on Judy Chen, the VP of Development at Dream Hotel Group. We're so excited to have her on.
Hope you guys still come back to Vegas after this.
Absolutely. Before Judy was at Dream Hotel, she was the Dream Hotel Group. She was in charge of design and development at the Thompson Hotels, director of events at 21 Entertainment, and in charge of design and development at Petite Armitage. Welcome to the show,
Thank
Judy.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me.
So, Judy, we have three sections. So I'm going to ask you some just quick questions that you can answer however you like. We're going to get into your career.
Okay.
And then we're going to ask you some of your insights on the current trends and what's going on with technology. All
Wonderful.
Right? Simple. So what was your first job ever?
So my first job was I was an intern for Andre Balazs, and that really opened up the door for me in the hospitality industry. My background is in architecture undergrad, real estate development grad, and David, as you know, you're familiar with NYU. Back in the day, hotel development was not a curriculum. They had hotel management, tourism, and then they also had real estate. So I was one of the very few people who went into development, and I was very fortunate to land an internship with Andre Balazs, and that opened every door for me in the industry.
That's great.
Yeah. Well, side note, funny story, how I got the internship. There was a guy that was asking me out for a date. This is not a dating podcast, but this is kind of relevant to the story. And I was like, I don't want to go out to dinner with him at all. And then he kept calling and pushing. And then at that time, showing my age here, Babbo had just opened in New York and they were impossible to get reservations. So he said, come on, you have to eat. I got his reservations at Babbo, just come. And I'm like, oh, fine. I really want to go to a Batali restaurant. So I went and then we were talking. He said, well, what do you want to do? I was in grad school at the time. And I said, my dream is to intern, no pun intended now. But I'm like, I would love to intern for Andre. And he said, my best friend works there. And that changed the trajectory.
Did he get a second date?
Nope. No.
So today, if you weren't in hospitality, what would you be doing?
I love to perform. I've always been, enjoying the side hustle and entertainment. It's a very difficult industry, but, would always love to be getting loosey-loose, leftover roles if the opportunity presented itself. But yeah, I do have a side hustle there in LA. But I like using my brain too. And I love the deal side of hotels, love running the numbers, love analyzing markets, which is what I do now. So yeah, if I'm not doing what I'm doing now, I would probably, still be hanging out with you guys though.
Yeah. So who did you admire growing up?
I didn't know if I admired him growing up, but in reading his book recently, it came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Nobu.
Okay.
His story is phenomenal. He went through so much rejection. He lived in Peru, which is why a lot of his Japanese cuisine has the Peruvian influence. And then he kind of sidetracked into hospitality in general. And then he had the support and backers of a lot of celebrities who loved his properties and helped him grow into hotels. I would highly recommend everyone to read that bio. Like it's really uplifting.
If you could take anyone, dead or alive, to lunch, who would it be and where would you take them?
Oh my gosh, I was not planning on this. This may be one that I need to cut and think for a little bit. Well, I'm a big Formula One fan, so I'm very excited that they're coming to Vegas next year. I'm actually going to go to the race in Singapore in October. One of my personal favorites is Ricardo, and he races for McLaren now. He used to race for Red Bull and Renault. So I would love, just because I have such a crush on him, that I would love to take him out. Because he had said in an interview a couple months ago, they had asked him, what's your dream race? And he goes, one in Vegas. Wow. And so, so now, it's like Darwin and Cupid are just on my side, and they're,
Where would you take him to lunch?
Lunch? Taco Bell?
Okay.
Go through the drive-thru in his car.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Drive through in a McLaren.
There you go.
So what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice, don't take yourself too seriously. The world is a complicated place, and you want to be a good person, and you want to, share your experience and your insights, and it's not worth being petty about a lot of things. And if you take yourself too seriously, not worth it. That's me personally.
Do you have a secret talent that nobody knows you have?
Oh, yes, I do actually. This one is actually, I'm an amazing parallel parker. So I grew up in the South. So I've been driving tractors and drinking beer since I was very young. And people are amazed. This was like, again, I'm showing my age. This was before cameras, like,
Right.
back cameras. And I apparently just, for an Asian female, have that knack. And I don't know.
Pretty good.
It is pretty good.
Yeah.
And one and done.
What's the most difficult thing you've parallel parked?
Well, I have a small car, so.
So we know it's not parallel parking, but what scares you?
Well, oh my gosh, what scares me, an empty bank account, lack of deals. Anyone want to deal with Dream?
Yeah.
This is what I'm here for.
All right. So again, you're good at parallel parking. What's something that you wish you were better at?
Oh, what am I better at? Podcasts.
Oh, okay.
Gotta learn from you guys.
And this is the last one in the first part. If you could pick a superpower, what would that superpower be?
X-ray vision. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people like invisible, but I think the X-ray vision is pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, I ain't being invisible.
That's funny.
That's awesome. So now we'll get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. I thought we already did.
No, we're not even there yet.
We're just warming
We just
up.
started.
That's right. So you grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, right? How did that shape you into who you are today?
And it's so funny you asked that, because I definitely think coming from an environment where I was not around people who looked like me,
Right.
I think it definitely made me a much more outspoken person. And, I went to Virginia for college undergrad, and Virginia then was not very diverse. I mean, it's still not that diverse, but I think to be able to hold your own and not feel uncomfortable, it's tough when you're 12, 13, 14, and you're not like everyone else. But 2020 hindsight, I feel like it was so valuable in that it really teaches you to, defend your ideas, not be worried about what other people think, and, to be able to express and not be worried about the consequences. And I think that helps in the industry as well, right? I work with predominantly men. So for the ladies listening, it's like, I understand it's a different environment. And to be able to know your stuff, hold your own, walk the walk and talk the talk, it's very important.
Isn't there a waterfall in Chattanooga? A
Yeah,
famous waterfall?
Ruby Falls.
Ruby Falls. How many times have you been to Ruby Falls?
0.
Never been there. Okay,
Yes.
there we go. Next question.
Exactly.
So you studied architecture at UVA and real estate at NYU. How have those two things helped you in your current role?
It's funny because I think you don't go to school for the know-how per se, and I know that's probably blasphemous to say, but you really go for the relationships and the perspectives. So architecture school, I'm not an architect now. I would have been a terrible architect if I had been one. So, no one would have given me the license. But, it taught you how to be creative and see things differently, see things three-dimensionally. How do you support your idea? And that's applicable to sales, marketing, and a lot of different things when you can defend your idea. Yep. So, the architecture stuff, having an eye for design, I think is really important. And just from a practicality standpoint, knowing how much things cost to build, or the practicality side of it. Just because something is beautiful, especially in a hotel project, that's going to get, messed up in 5 days. So, you have to have the mindset of, what's sustainable and applicable for the product type that you're in. And on the deal side for real estate, especially now doing deals for Dream, to be able to understand the numbers and to be able to see both the analytic and the creative, I think has been instrumentally helpful. A lot of times when you work with people, it's one or the other. And I think it's quite helpful to be able to see both sides. And, kind of like from our company, Dream started out as owners, developers, operators. So we understand how much it costs to build and operate. But a lot of times people see one side or the other, and it's not enough. And to be able to run something that's continually profitable, you have to know what your basis was going in. And I think sometimes there's a disconnect. So to be able to have the owner mentality plus the ongoing mentality, I think is really important.
You have kind of a side hustle as well on the entertainment side. You've been in quite a few films.
Oh,
You've been in film, TV, web, commercials, to name a few.
It's a side hustle.
How'd you get into it?
So typical Asian kid, I've wanted to be performing ever since I was a child. Parents said, no way. And so I never went. I wanted to go to drama school at UVA. And architecture school was already kind of like the black sheep. Like, this is not law or medicine. Like, what is wrong with you? But okay, fine. And so I was working in New York when I was at Thompson, the original Thompson, before it became Hyatt. I was working for the Pomerantz family. I was working for Jason.
Know them well.
I did everything for Jason back in the day when we were like 5 people in the office. And I was doing off Broadway for fun, nights and weekends, taking classes. And I just fell in love with, I still love it. And so, took a little break from the hotel world. I was out in LA pursuing acting for a couple of years, which I still do on the side. But, it's a different brain to tap into. And, the entertainment world is challenging, to be perfectly frank, knowing what I know about the industry now. If I had kids and they want to get into it, I said, absolutely not. It's a tough one.
Has there been a project you've done that you're really passionate about, or one that sticks out where you're like, I love that. Like, that's my favorite thing I've done.
I wish I could say that there was, and a lot of people ask me, like, what's your ideal role? And back in the day, I'm like, my dream is to be, I keep saying dream. There's no pun intended, guys. I would love to be the bad Bond girl.
Okay.
That's my ideal role. So, the one who lets Bond go because they have such a great relationship. Right. And then because she lets him go, he ends up killing her. I already know what's going to happen. I already wrote my script.
Is there a spot in Vegas? You're a local. We're in Vegas. Where is the best local spot? If we get it, we're here tonight, where do we have to go?
So my favorite spot, if you guys, it depends on what you want. And I think that's the beauty of Vegas. It's always evolving. There's always something new, exciting to do. Do you want to go to a bar, a lounge, a nightclub, a day club, a restaurant, whatever it is, right? But if I had one place to pick, and I know they're not sponsoring us, but they should, there's a Mexican restaurant called El Dorado.
Oh, okay.
El Dorado Cantina.
El Dorado.
They have a couple locations now. They've done really well. So they've expanded, but there's one on Industrial. It is, or Sammy Davis Jr. Drive. It is next to Sapphire Strip Club. They share the back. It's the same building.
Okay. Don't get any ideas, Steve.
Don't get any ideas. I'm strictly there for the Mexican food. And it's the yummiest food, and it's not expensive. It's just off the strip. So that's where I would recommend you go. And then you didn't hear this from me because it's a pro tip here. Mm-hmm. But whenever I go, I bring my friends, male, female, just because they like the novelty. They're like, what's good food and not too pricey, because the strip is pricey. So I take them to El Dorado, and then we chat with the GM. I don't know who the GM is today. It's been a while since I've been back there. But you're like, I want to go check out next door. He'll walk you in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So versus a $50 cover charge for a female. Oh.
No, thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. I think it's $75 for men.
Wow.
Yeah. So now you know the hack.
Now we know the hack.
Now you know the hack to get into Sapphire and eat amazing Mexican food.
Perfect. Yeah. There we go. There we go.
Wait, where's dinner tonight, guys?
I think we're changing.
Yeah, exactly.
We have a reservation.
Exactly.
But
I think I just got myself invited.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So now we're going to jump into your career a little bit more. We're changing. So your first job in hospitality was with Andre Belize. Mm-hmm. Okay. How was that? You mentioned you kind of fell in love with hospitality doing that. What was it about it that you were like, this is what I want to do, and this is what I want to do forever?
I agree. I think what you know and then what you actually end up learning are two different things, or what you think you know. To me, Andre is such a pioneer. He had the Standard, the Raleigh, and then like the Standard has like the Boom Boom Room. He has a Chiltern Firehouse in London, just very ahead of the curve in terms of kind of knowing what people want and being able to cater to that. And I'm not going to lie, I feel like I got very spoiled being able to work for him as my first job because, I think there are other hotel companies, everyone is very different. And I think there's all things for different people, different brands for different folks. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I feel like with what I love and focus on throughout my career, lifestyle hospitality, food and beverage, nightlife, private members clubs, Andre really was a great entrance into that. So, it was my idea of, this is what I want to do in hospitality. So I was very fortunate.
So you were at LaSalle Hotels, and what did you learn there as far as, the kind of the investment consulting type of side of the business? Like, how did that really kind of ooze into kind of who you are today and what you know?
Well, it's actually it was such a valid and meaningful time for my career because, LaSalle is very corporate. JLL is very corporate, and I'm not a corporate person at all. But all my colleagues in the hotel industry came from Cornell or Lausanne, right? They all have the hotel school background, and I did not. At that time, when I was at NYU for grad school, I knew nothing about hotels. I didn't know a star report. I didn't know anything until I worked for Andre. So I knew nothing. And so working at JLL helped me understand the number side of things. So I have to be honest, it was kind of a learn and earn type for me because I learned how to run numbers, how to do deal analyses, market and feasibility studies, refis, and I didn't learn that at school at all. And so it was good to be able to learn. But do I see myself climbing the ranks? It's not, and Hilda and I, Hilda was an associate when I was an analyst, and now she's the global CEO for JLL. I mean, she's dynamic. I love her. But I'm like, I could not do what she does, on a daily basis. And it's, it's a different mindset, but, learning how to do sales, conduct tours. I think you can never know too much. Maybe that's me being nosy, but I think in any industry, in any profession, you can never know too much.
Well, what's good is when you get these different samplings, it helps you kind of weed out the BS.
Correct.
When someone's BSing you, you kind of like, okay, I'm not a CFO, I'm not this numbers person, but I understand it. Right. So you're trying to pull one on me. I get it. I can see it. So I think for me, that's what I've always tried to do is try to immerse myself in areas that I knew that I was weak in and that I needed something to kind of at least educate me and kind of get me at least a step up from where I was.
And surround yourself with the smartest people.
Correct. Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. I get it.
So now you're the VP of Development at Dream Hotel Group. How have your past roles helped you in your current role?
Oh gosh, what hasn't? And I feel like as we get older, everything we do in life is relevant to the next step. And I'm very fortunate that, I've had great relationships from my previous jobs and vendors and contacts, and now they're all very supportive. And I was a big fan of Dream before I started working for the company. So I used to go out in New York and LA before I worked for, before I was on full time. And so to be able to rep a brand that you really love, and, we are kind of the underdogs in a lot of, and we don't have the Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt reach, but sometimes there's a lot to be said for being kind of, someone who's not part of that as well. Right. So, I see pros and cons, but I think there's nothing that we do, regardless of profession or even industry knowledge, that does not help you with what you do day to day, because everything you learn along the way really helps you as a person, as a professional, as an adult. And, whether it's relationships or skill sets, like even entertainment on that side, I mean, you have to have skin this thick. Yeah. And I work with a lot of male developers, and, you have to be able to hold your own. So I think there is nothing I would say that has not, helped me with where I am now.
Yeah, and what's unique is I think when you look at a company or a brand like Dream, there's so much more areas to grow. Correct. Versus if you're in kind of that niche of a brand that has to have 20 brands so they can have 6 of their brands in one city.
And that's one of my pet peeves now with, if you're an industry trend, there's too many brands. Yeah. What's really differentiating them one from the other, and why am I coming there besides redeeming my points? So I think, there's a lot to be said there, and be like, at what point are you a little too saturated in the industry?
It's a good segue. So Dream has technically 5 kind of brands currently. 4?
Four brands, yeah.
So maybe just take us quickly through those 4 brands and how they're connected or not connected, or how they're different from one another.
So Dream Hotel Group, Dream is our namesake brand. We're 4 stars, very fun, luxury, lifestyle, a lot of food and beverage. That's pretty much what, we're known for. The groups we partner with, as well as our own F&B concepts, like at Dream Nashville, the IP is ours. In New York, LA, we partner with Tao Group, Vegas, TBD. But, we definitely find the right groups to work with to really make a splash. Because for us, the money is in the food and beverage and the locals.
Wow.
They want to come hang out, I make more money when my girlfriends and I want to come have a drink at Dream Vegas, or, a happy hour, a nightclub, a boozy brunch, versus someone like you guys who come to our city, 2-3 times a year?
Sure.
Even if you come, we'd welcome you with open arms. But that's not the consistent, and that's why we really cater to the locals. And I think that's what we're very successful at. We do have a luxury 5-star brand, the Chotwal, named after our founder, Mr. Chotwal. And Chotwal, it's in Times Square. We are opening up at any minute now the Chotwal Lodge up in the Catskills, all inclusive, lots of outdoor amenities and activities like horseback riding and all these that is new for us, but definitely something that, and that's another segue into, as an aside, a trend in the industry is that I think lifestyle is evolving in many different. I have our little sister brand, Unscripted, which was meant to be Dream for smaller markets.
Okay.
So a prototypical Dream has 4 to 6 food and beverage outlets. If you look at a market like St. Louis, you look at a market like Kansas City, I love those markets. Sure. I will do deals there all day long because I have no competition. But you're not going to sustain 4 restaurants. The market doesn't allow for it. So Unscripted was our answer to smaller markets who still have the Dream DNA, the fun, the vibe, maybe 1 restaurant, maybe 1 rooftop bar, but not 4+. So that was our idea for Unscripted. And then lastly, we have By DHG, one of our soft brand collections, especially for projects that are either conversions or something with a great story. We looked at a few places that were like former churches, former temples, to have that story be part of the narrative of the project. To put our brand on it, does not make as much sense as saying, this was originally, the Customs House by Dream Hotel Group. So, there's sometimes projects that have its own identity that we can still make ours, but By DHG was meant to be a catch-all in terms of curating that experience and not let the Dream name itself take over while still having our fun, our DNA, and our programming and partnerships.
Across those brands, how many hotels do you think you'll have in your portfolio in probably the next 5 years?
Wow. I mean, we are very active in our deal signings. So, I would say in an ideal scenario, 100 hotels. I mean, we've been very active in the pipeline. The development team has remained intact since COVID. We've been signing deals. So we are very bullish on the market and the brand. But a lot of times, not just us, but any brand in general, we're at the mercy of a lot of different gods, right? On the financing side, on the market side, no one expected COVID. And so there are a lot of things that could be out of our control. But I think we are getting a lot of momentum. Dream Doha is opening in shortly as well. That's with the royal family. We were going to open before World Cup. I think it's been delayed a little bit, but we may still do a soft opening. But the idea is, I think, as we continue to grow internationally too, we're getting the name out, and it's a process. It's not easy because a lot of people, not in the industry or not in New York, LA, Miami, Nashville, they don't know us. Even Dream Vegas, my developers didn't know us, and everyone in New York was like, "Why haven't you guys been in Vegas already?" I'm like, "It's not easy getting a deal signed in Vegas. It's a big boys club here."
Yeah.
On the casino, on the gaming side,
Kind of speaking about Vegas, which is a new development, do you have one of these new developments that's kind of close to your heart that you really are enjoying working with or you're excited to see go live?
I mean, my baby is breaking ground in July, and, that will be 525 rooms, which is large for us, minuscule for Vegas. Right. And, we'll have gaming and many food and beverage outlets, and that will open in probably Q3 2024, $350 million project south of the Strip. It's the first hotel you'll see by the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. So during draft, they had all these,
draft was cool.
And they had interviews at the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. And so all the photos there you see in the back, that's where Dream will be. So any Welcome to Las Vegas, interview and photo op will be right there. So I think that's very valuable. And I'm personally very bullish on the south end of the Strip. A lot of people in Vegas don't agree with me. But, the stadium is now open. Everything is pushing southwards, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I think a couple things. Many, many years ago when they were talking about bringing an NFL franchise to Las Vegas, I knew somebody who had lived here most of their life, and they said it will never happen. It happened.
Yep.
The draft, the NFL is obviously, they're incredible marketers. They're very smart the way they've positioned things. But having the draft in Vegas was, I think it was incredible. It made me jealous being so close, being in Phoenix, and I was like, I should have went to. I did come to a game. I'm a Philadelphia guy, so I went to the Eagles Raiders game in the fall when we got killed.
I was there.
Yeah, it was bad, but anyway, but I
have proof. I
have proof too.
Yeah, exactly. I was at the Raiders Eagles game. I think it was last October or November.
Yeah.
He's trying to forget.
Yeah,
he's trying to forget.
Anyway, it was, but the city, I will say, there's things I see that are going on in Phoenix, different, already have 4 sports teams. When you look at Las Vegas, it's kind of like it's a city that you didn't think could kind of I don't know if get better is the right word, but it's kind of, it's like a city where you're kind of like, what else are they going to do? And you're like, oh, well, guess what? We're going to add an NFL team, and guess what? We're going to have a hockey team, and guess what? And you're just like, wow, this is incredible. So I think, to your point, south of the Strip, I think, it's kind of, people always say that stuff until the two have merged, and it's no longer south. It's just the Strip. And it's just happens to be the south side of it.
Yeah, but Vegas, even in the past, I've lived here for 4.5 years now. Even the past few years. It's leaps and bounds. It's so different from, and I actually moved here the Tuesday after the Mandalay incident.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I remember when I moved here. Oh. And, at that time, coming in and seeing all the Vegas strong signs. I think Vegas really underwent a transformation in the sense that there's a solidarity. And then when you see the Knights were here, 2 years before the Raiders. The hometown energy is unlike anything else. I've lived in New York, LA, I go to all the, the Kings and, the games.
And that's what Vegas was. They were nervous about bringing those sports teams here because they're like, well, it's
going to all the visitors, all the opposing team.
Yeah. But now, the Raiders are making big moves with getting.
So this is the part in the program where we get a beverage. We get a beverage refill.
Beverage refill, ex-husband. Can we say that? Yes. Is your wife still gonna?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anthony, guys.
Hey, thank you, Anthony.
So that's how we do things at the Modern Hotelier. We make sure that we have our previous guest come in. Previous guest, they have to pay their dues, come back.
Exactly, they have to come
serve
back.
Current guest.
Whose room are you in right now?
Yeah, exactly.
We're in Anthony's room. Anyway, so this is a good portion. Anthony's bringing some little
look
treats
at
for us. So,
a little charcuterie.
Good. Yeah, so I'm gonna take a piece of that.
Here you go.
I'm going to tell all the aspiring hoteliers you want to be on this podcast.
Oh, my goodness. With service like this.
The problem is they're going to be like, where's Anthony?
Yeah, exactly.
When's the food and drinks coming?
Where's the intermission that we're having?
Exactly.
Right?
So, kids, if you work hard, you can sit in this seat, too.
So good. So good. All right. So now we're going to talk about your thoughts. Kind of your thoughts on technology, trends.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Thank you.
But first of all, I want to hear, if somebody who's just starting out in the industry, what's a piece of advice that you would give them?
It's funny. This is kind of an odd answer. I always say be well-read because it really opens your perspective on a lot. And I'm a big nerd. I'm a big reader. And I think that shapes your perspective on a lot of things, makes you more open and acceptable of different ideas and thoughts. Because I think there's nothing worse than being more narrow-minded or thinking that you're the be-all, end-all. You're not. You're not. And I think for anyone starting out, it's about being open to learning and humility.
Yeah.
Right.
Be well-read and be humble.
I'll give you a cheers to
Cheers to that.
Yeah.
I'm finishing mine.
Oh, well, where's...
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah. The Melchiori room service is...
Yeah.
He's back.
Yeah, he's heading to the poker table soon, so we're just
exactly.
gonna go hang out.
Or El Dorado and Sapphire.
Yeah.
Just the busboy with a drink.
With an awesome room that we get to use.
Awesome room that we're crashing.
That's so funny.
Is there anything you would have done differently in your career?
No.
Love that.
Love that.
Love it.
I made a lot of mistakes. I own it.
I love that.
I learned from it.
Yeah, it was good. I was watching an interview and Larry King asked Anthony Hopkins, "Do you have any regrets?" And he took this this kind of real simple pause, and he just said, "No, I don't." He goes, "I've done good things, I've done bad things."
Exactly,
but,
we all have.
He's like, "But I am who I am, and I try to do my best." And it was very simple. So it was very good answer.
And that's another piece of advice: be unapologetic.
Yeah, look, nobody's perfect. We're going to make
one is.
mistakes, so. It's tough when you have bosses that think everyone's supposed to be perfect, but anyway, we'll skip to the next question.
Exactly.
So what, so outside of, everyone's talking about COVID, labor shortages. What do you think outside of those two things, what's the next biggest challenge that the industry's facing right now?
Well, I mean, I hate to be cliche, but, obviously the supply shortage is hurting and impacting us in a myriad of ways. To go back to the staffing issue, I do want to touch upon that because, whenever I travel to any of our hotels, I like to speak with the GMs and find out because I'm on the deal side. I don't know ops. So I'm learning a lot from them, being like, what are the pros and cons, or, where are your pain points? Because I need to be able to convey that to my developers when we're talking about the operation side. And in the past, I would say 2 years, the biggest issue with the staff shortage is we've had to do temp labor. And the temps don't know your brand. They don't care about your brand. Yeah. They're there for a check and they're out in a certain amount of time. And that's very hurtful. It dilutes your brand, and you can be our biggest fan. You have a bad interaction with them. That really puts a bad taste in your mouth. And that's not through a fault of our own. It's just the industry is just hard pressed right now in different ways. For Dream Hollywood, what we did was, this was a unique take on kind of the staffing shortage. We partnered with a robotics company.
Oh, wow.
And we have these little robots. They look like little R2-D2s, but they run around in the lobby and they tell jokes. They wear they have like a little bow tie. They're very dapper, speak with a British accent. And they also do a lot of room runs, like Uber Eats, amenities, And for a time when you're such short-staffed, people are like, oh, robots are going to take over. Our robots have garnered us so much press. And it's, people come to see our robot, and it's just like to be creative with the issues that you're facing without taking away from the brand experience is so important. And I feel like these past few years, everyone has had to get creative because there's just a finite number of resources you have. Another great example from Dream Hollywood was during COVID, no one was going to hotels, right? The occupancies were at 10, 20, 30%. And what our general manager, who's amazing, Vaughn Davis there, he worked with an NFT art gallery and did digital art in our lobby. So everyone would come to see it. Even if you're not staying at the hotel, you came. And when you were there, you're like, oh, I'm going to stop by for a drink. I'll have a meal.
Sure.
And at a time when no one was coming to hotels, that generated press and foot traffic and food and beverage business. So I think it's really important to be nimble and to be creative because you have to think outside of the box in these times.
Yeah, I was going to say we had Max Starkov, who's a big advocate of technology in hotels. And I just got to Vegas today, and it was amazing because I had just a couple quick things. So I stayed at a hotel where mobile check-in, mobile key, didn't have to go to the front desk, no problems. Got in the elevator, got in my room first time, great.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
Second time, didn't work. Mobile key
What happened?
didn't work.
Oh.
Wouldn't work. I tried everything. I had my phone upside down, right side up. I was standing on one leg. I had my finger in my ear. Yeah. I tried everything. But yet, so it was so close to being great. But then I won't name the other hotel, but I went to see another colleague, and this hotel, there was a line of about 10 people checking in. And this was a very, very high-end hotel. And you're thinking, like, how bad is this for that person standing in the line? Like, there's technology that can solve this. So one, the technology for me worked the first time, didn't work the second time. But I think as an industry, we still have to, and as Max was saying, we have to embrace it, because it's like you book your Uber on your phone. You go to the airport and you're on your mobile boarding pass.
Right.
When you're home, you order on your app, DoorDash. You get to the hotel, and the hotel I was at got it for the most part right in effort. But the industry has to, I think, just evolve. So the robot story is a pretty cool story because it shows that they're embracing technology that's improving the guest experience, where everyone's afraid that it's going to take away from the guest experience.
I was on a panel for a conference in London, and we were talking about guest experience. A lot of people are hesitant to go, completely text focused, and they're like, oh, well, it takes away from the guest experience. I will not tell you a line at a check-in that I wanted to wait in. There are certain places where it enhances the experience versus take away from it. And everyone just thinks, the robots are taking over the world. That's not true. But I think the problem with technology, though, is, like you said, the first and the second time, consistency.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be ironed out. Because if you have that, then there's so many places where you don't need labor. You're not going to dislike your experience at XYZ hotel any less. And it makes it perhaps even better. But consistency, right? And ease of use.
Absolutely.
Those are the two things.
Absolutely. And I almost think Alfred almost increases that guest experience.
He does.
I had a chance to hear Vaughn speak.
When did you hear Vaughn speak? He's amazing.
He's so
I love
good.
Vaughn.
He's so good.
I'm
forgetting where I saw him, but he was so good. I got to meet him afterwards, and he's awesome.
Well, you guys need anything, I'll put you in touch with
He's great,
Vaughn.
and he's a great dresser as well. So,
the dapperest dresser in all of hotel GMs.
Good. But he was telling about the whole story of Alfred and the naming process and everything that went into it. And I don't know if you can share a little bit about that, but I thought that was really awesome. And then he was talking about how people are taking pictures with the robots.
Yeah.
And they're ordering room service just for the robot to come to the room. And it's like...
Just to Instagram it, video them coming up, video Alfred.
It's amazing.
That creates a unique experience in how technology does that. What was that process like of adding Alfred to it, and how did that decision come to be?
And I have to be honest, that was not a corporate decision. It was a Vaughn decision. He's a very visionary GM. Awesome. He's like my brother. I adore him. So he did the NFT thing, and a lot of times the right partnerships and activations really, make or break what you contribute, because we don't take out ads, right? A press mention is infinitely more valuable than any ad you can take out. Yeah. Having people hang out there for Super Bowl, a lot of the after parties were at Tao and Beauty and Essex. So we're very strategic in that respect. Like, what gets people talking? What moves the needle? What's not done yet? And that's why, like Vaughn said about the story with Alfred, everything that we do comes with a big backstory, a big amount of preparation, a big amount of homework to see, does this make sense? Are people going to talk about it? Or are we just going to be like another big brand trying to be hip and put a DJ on the roof and craft cocktails in the basement, right? It's a lot of work going into what we do to create the narratives of our brands in our hotels.
Outside of what we just discussed, is there anything else that you think is a kind of a trend or some sort of technology that you guys are looking at to kind of improve that guest experience? I mean, I know you're not on the operations side, but is there anything else that you're kind of hearing through the organization?
At least as a company, I think Dream is very progressive. So we are very open to all aspects of new tech innovations. We're one of the few companies who are like, people like Vaughn who are very innovative. They're like, we'll give it a go. I feel like instead of anything that maximizes the guest experience, I am not as familiar with a lot of and I know there's a lot of other applications out there, but a lot of times it's like, does that really benefit the bottom line? And I think there's stuff to be considered, pros and cons to be weighed in terms of, does this make sense for us? Because I know there's no shortage of apps for hotels now, right? Everything has an app. But does it make sense?
In your travel, has there been anything that you've seen that you've been like, oh, we need this at Dream? Has there been anything where you've traveled and you've been like, oh, we got to get this. This is a really good piece of technology.
I don't know about technology. I was talking about a party shower, but anyway.
A party shower?
So actually, we have it at Nashville with Dream Nashville.
Okay.
It's a birthday party shower.
Is it a big
like a
party?
shower, like water?
Yeah. In the
and I said water for those of the people who know that I'm from outside Philadelphia, and we normally say water.
Water?
And I said water. I made sure I said it correctly.
Oh no, it's a fully functioning shower, and I think we're gonna do something similar at Dream Vegas. Can't give it away, but
so you've got like Vaughn, you mentioned in the NFT stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think the Metaverse Web 3.0, all of this, how is that going to affect hospitality?
Well, I think it's going to be much more integrated to an extent, because at the end of the day, all of us are in the money-making business. And so where there is revenue to be had, we will be there to collect if we can. So, I think that's still up in the air in terms of, all the Bitcoins and the metaverses. And this is not a plug for the company, but I was watching a Facebook video about Chipotle in the metaverse. And they were doing you can be making burritos and you earn points. I mean, at some point, every brand is going to jump in on it, but is there a return? I don't know. But, I feel like everything now is being more and more integrated into that. And does it translate into dollar signs? I don't know.
And I feel like that's kind of like when we had Facebook and Instagram. We didn't know how that was going to turn into a business. And now we have this, and it's going to be the same thing.
No, it smells like that, the whole thing, when you were like, when I talk to people about certain things, and I'm like, well, if I would have told you 10 years ago you were going to be sleeping in some stranger's house, which is Airbnb, you're going to get in the backseat of some stranger's car, which is an Uber, and not taking a taxi. It just kind of has that feel. And I think, I've plugged him before, but my friend Michael Cohen, he is really big on it. He's holding these kind of metaverse virtual meetings, and it's I think you just got to keep your eye on it and see where it goes. And like you said, if there's money there, then people are gonna
and no one has the crystal ball. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately,
but these kids,
if we did, we'd be billionaires.
The kids are on these Oculus. I think it's called the headsets. Our server today, Anthony, was telling me he was trying for some meeting, but it was making him nauseous. But I said, I think you have to.
That's because Anthony's old.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be the name of the podcast.
Anthony's old.
Yeah, episode 8, Anthony's old. But anyway, so we covered a lot. We've covered your background, everything. Is there any question you wish we would have asked you that we didn't?
Oh, wow. No questions.
Okay,
no questions.
Good.
Just
anything you want to plug? Tell us what's going on with Dream. Anything that's up and coming that we should know about?
So for Dream, we have the Chotwal Lodge up in the Catskills opening up probably end of this month. And we have Dream Doha opening up end of this year. Okay. And my baby, Dream Vegas, will break ground in July and hopefully open in Q3 of 2024. So you guys are invited to the opening party.
Thank you. It's great.
You're going to lose a lot of brain cells.
Yeah. It's all right. We're going
to lose a lot of brain cells, but you're on the short list. So you're on. You guys are good. We're very excited for it. I think Vegas will be happy that, we like to bring something different to the table. And I think we are.
Yeah, I think that'll be cool.
Their dreams are coming true, people would say.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Well, so that's it. That's the wrap for the Modern Hotelier presented by Stay Flexi here in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Of course. Thank
you.
We appreciate
Anthony's still old.
I know. He did a good job serving, though.
He did a good job serving us.
So, again, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So fun. Thank you.
Cheers.
You made it to the end of The Modern Hotelier. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe below. The Modern Hotelier is produced by Make More Media and presented by Stay Flexi. Stay Flexi is your modern operating system for independent hotels. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to go to stayflexi.com, or if you'd rather talk to me, message me on LinkedIn or shoot me an email at Steve.Carran@stayflexi.com. Thanks and have a great day.